Well, good evening, my friends, and welcome back to, well, it was going to be a podcast, but then I realized that my SD card was full on my recorder. I don't want to set up the computer, so it's not a 15-minute free thinking podcast. It's more of a just random chat on YouTube, I guess. I'm not going to call it anything else. It's, and that's funny enough because part of the topic is, I guess, the humor of the self-importance of podcasts and YouTube community, if you will, especially with video essays. And I saw a clip earlier. Well, many of you are probably familiar with Man Carrying Thing, which is just a YouTuber who he makes longer videos, but he does a lot of like shorts that are just kind of mocking YouTube issues in general. And today he had one that it's where he's talking to himself. They're very simple, and it's great the way he puts them together. But it was about have you heard this crazy thing that's happening with this guy? There's a whole YouTube drama community which considers themselves like video essayists because they make an hour long video where they just talk shit about and show clips about somebody else, and then basically throw in a lot of information that was already debunked, or it goes back to the old idea that a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on. So basically, people who don't do an ounce of research into something but just talk about a situation, and it's usually a drama between other YouTubers, and that drama is due to other YouTubers, and on down the line. Sometimes it's some viral video that everybody talks about. It becomes this just flavor of the week, right? Something people want to talk about. It's garbage, really just garbage content. They call it slop, slop tube. It's just junk. But there's lots of it out there, and I found that it happens, of course, with podcasts as well. And I'm not going to say mine would be immune to that, but I try to at least talk about things that are from my heart. I'm not here putting up these clickbaity all caps titles with exclamation marks saying, oh my God, you've got to see this, Like if you want to click, you'll click because the title reflects what I'm talking about. But you know what I'm saying when you see these, it's especially discouraging when it's a podcast that I've watched for a long time, or listened to rather for a long time, and or even a while, and then you see it devolve into this just commercial every 5 minutes, shilling a bunch of shitty products, whether they're crappy little video games or selling you some shave kit, or all this crap that people want to feed you, sell you the earbuds, the Raycons, sell you on VPNs. I mean, even some of the most highbrow channels that make millions of dollars a year, of course they do when they're still sponsoring VPNs and using BetterHelp as a sponsor, knowing BetterHelp sold people's personal medical information to like all these third parties. It's fucked up that people are willing to put themselves out there and that they get totally screwed, but it happens, and that's, I guess, caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware. But we need to protect each other too. It's the same way we do with charlatans and, snake oil salesmen. People call them out because they see a person selling something or providing a service that is bullshit, and they want to let people know because they don't want their fellow man to get ripped off by this person. Well, that's the reason why a lot of people talk shit about these YouTube channels. A lot of them aren't just individuals. They're content farms, and it's very unfortunate. And then that doesn't even include the ones that are just paid by perhaps some foreign government, like a controversy that recently arose about, Russia paying through a proxy to have certain information put forward, and all of these, like, Tim Pool and all these other people were caught up in it. And it's just like, facepalm. Like, if you want the big money, if you want to get rich just talking to a microphone or a camera, just acknowledge the fact that people are only paying for your fame, not for what you have to say. And you can get a lot more attention, when you're screaming about the problems of the world and telling everybody how the other side is wrong and these people are bad, like so many people do. And, it's its own world on the internet, just rage bait, basically. And it's garbage, in my opinion. So, now that doesn't mean that we shouldn't care about crazy shit going on. And I for one, would say I'm grateful for even the most extreme versions, even the Alex Jones of the world, And I know Alex Jones got a lot of his original start from, William Cooper, which wrote Behold a Pale Horse. And that whole story goes way back, and I was really into conspiracies for years on end, which is why I can kind of poke and prod and make fun of them now, seeing, okay, some of them were true, but a lot of this stuff is complete bullshit. And, you just got to learn how to discern, how to tell the difference between what's true and what's not likely true. But I say likely because you'll never be 100% sure. You just have to use your best senses to determine bullshit. And so even when a person is telling 100% truth, whether it's on a podcast or on a, say, video, there's a certain sense you'll get when a person is lying. A certain understanding you'll get. You can just tell when a person is full of shit or when they're not being genuine. Which, I guess 9 times out of 10 these days, people aren't being genuine. You can see that, and people are okay with that. They're playing a role. But when people try to be genuine, when they act like they're being genuine, right? When they're like, say somebody who has kind of a shtick, they always do, and then they go out of line and say something that somebody took as like offensive, so they go and do this apology video, and they're just so fake. You can just tell, when a person's being honest, when they're being sincere. And I guess not with all people. Not all people can discern that with others, and also not all people really show that, because some people are don't really have even any empathy themselves. They, there's the sociopaths out there who just play the game. So, it's a confusing world in that way. But ultimately, I think, as I've said before, most people are just genuine people trying to make connections and live their lives and mean no harm to anyone else. But it seems that no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how kind of a person you are, or how much you avoid conflict, drama, like myself, I try to avoid it all because it's not good for my health, my mental health. I don't want to hear about what's going on in politics or hear about what's going on in, any rage bait place, right? But I also want to be informed. So therefore lies the catch-22, the conundrum, right? You try to stay away from it, but then somebody's like, oh, aren't you aware that this guy said this or this person did this? And you have to weigh whether or not that even matters to you. Do I care what a presidential candidate said? No, because, words are cheap, talk's cheap. Do I care about maybe a potential nuclear war happening or people dying? Yeah, of course, because I want to know what's going on and keep up on these things. I don't want the negative news, but I also want to know what's going on. And that's a tricky one. And each person has to weigh that for themselves and see how much of the bullshit they can tolerate, right? I could tolerate a shitload of it. Like, I could be constantly inundated with bad news and be okay with it because I'm fascinated. But I've realized that it consumes time in my mind. If I'm thinking about what's going on with some place I've never been, like I'm already consumed enough with the war, with the Israel situation, but only because that has a pretext for me. It's something I've been fascinated with since I was younger. And it reminds me of a Propagandhi song where they say the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, soon will be parking lots for American tourists and fascist cops. And it kind of where it's heading right now. But that I've been watching this because it's always been said it's going to come from the Middle East, that this is where the shit's going to hit the fan. And it makes sense. At, what people deem to be the Holy Land, their righteous land. All the politics aside, when I see the aggression that people are willing to commit on one another, it saddens me, but it also fascinates me. It makes me wonder, how little do I really know about human nature, right? What people can do when they're under pressure. and when they feel threatened, because I know how I would protect my own family. So, you know, I don't see any resolution. I just see something to observe and be aware of. So information like that is important to pay attention to me. Just knowing how much weaponry is down there, and how it could spiral out of control pretty quickly, knowing the potential for anything to happen at any time. However, any worldwide cataclysm or even localized cataclysm will always bring people closer together. All we can hope is that people give a shit about one another enough to, come together in the face of a disaster. We live our daily lives. We come home from work. We're tired. We look at the news or watch a show, a movie, make some dinner, go to bed, live our normal lives. But when something big happens, your brain snaps into a different mode. And a crisis is when you need to be ready. Having radios, having food, being able to figure out what's going on. And so in those situations, most people come together because they're alert and they know that they need to protect each other. And it's just in our instinct. We're herd mentality when the time is tough. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. I'm going to go make some potato soup now, and I'll talk to you next time. Be well.